Hey guys, welcome back to Pathways to Wealth. In this episode, we're talking about how to finally take control of your financial future. And you might be in a position right now where you're in a lot of debt, you don't have the income that you want, and you're nowhere close to your wealth goals. Or you might be in a point where your business this year has done better than ever before, and you're just crushing your goals. And since we're here at the end of the year, I wanted just to help everybody get prepared for the new year and get to a point where you can take control of your financial future. And I want to start by telling you a little bit of a story of where I was when I was in crippling debt and depressed, and how I got out of that and built several businesses and started earning seven figures and stacking cash and traveling. And, again, you might be in a point where you have kind of the head in the sand moment and you're not wanting to look at reality, or you might be in a point where you are just crushing it, or somewhere in the middle of that spectrum. And it doesn't matter where you are today. I think going into a new year, it's always nice because you have that feeling of newness and you get to kind of start over in a sense. And so with that said, let's go ahead and dive into these 12 steps. So I want to start by telling you a story. In my early 20s, whenever I left corporate America to go back into entrepreneurship, because if you recall from earlier episodes, I started my first business when I was 16, and I was pulling in, $3,000 to $4,000 a week in cash. And then when I graduated high school, instead of going to a full-time college, I went directly into corporate America to try to learn through doing, right? I knew I was terrible in the classroom, and hopefully having some kind of level of self-awareness, I knew, okay, college is probably not the best fit. I might try some night classes, but I'm going to go into corporate America. And I excelled. I did really well in corporate America. I was moving up the ladder. I was on the front lines of the subprime mortgage crisis, which at the time nobody really saw coming, but I saw the writing on the wall, and I decided to leave the mortgage business to go back into entrepreneurship. And what happened was I went $95,000 in debt. So through that process of struggle, what happened was I got to a point where my debt was so bad that I really had the head in the sand feeling. And every time a bill would come in, time a credit card statement or a bill would come in, I would just open my bottom drawer at my desk and drop it in there and close it and just wish and hope that it would somehow just go away. But as you might know, not facing reality never makes things better, right? It only makes things worse. And so it got to a point where it was so bad that I just said, all right, I have to throw my hands up and I have to face this. And I did. I looked at where I was and I made some very hard decisions. I told my girlfriend at the time, who is now my wife, I said, babe, we can't go out to eat. We can't do what we've been doing, the lifestyle. I have to really go into hustle mode. I have to bust ass and get out from under this debt and get my income to where I want it to be. And looking back, in the span of about 2 years or less, I ended up building a couple of businesses, creating multiple income streams, and had seven figures in income. And looking back, I was like, oh my God, we did it. So what I want to do is show you that process. And I have 12 steps that can kind of take you from A to Z, no matter where you are on the spectrum of, maybe you're in a ton of debt or maybe you're just crushing it with your business. These are steps that going into the new year, I think, can really be helpful. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. So step number one is you need to make a decision to change. Again, if your head is in the sand, if you're not wanting to look at reality, you're not going to get anywhere. So step one is, just like in any 12-step program, you have to admit that you have a problem, or you have to just look at reality. You have to own up to the consequences of not being in control of your finances. Maybe you've been really diligent and you balance your checkbook every month, or you're on top of it, or maybe it's just completely out of control. But no matter where you are today, you have to start at ground zero, which is making a decision to change. And once you do that, then you can go into step number two, which is a lot more fun, which is determining your end destination, right? And what that does is, once you look at where you are today and you figure out where the end destination is, it gives you kind of a tangible beginning and end point. Whereas if you're just saying, well, I'm in a lot of debt and I don't know how I'm going to get out of that, or my business is suffering and I don't know how to create more income, if you don't have a starting kind of tangible begin point and an end point, it's just real fuzzy, and it's more motivating if you have a beginning and an end. So the end for you might be, the jet set baller lifestyle where you just want to hop on a private jet and travel the world. Or it might be, I just want to make 6 figures or 7 figures so I can have all the time I want to spend with my family and my kids. Doesn't matter what your end destination is. What matters is that you define it and get really specific. What I like to do is just journal and write out what my perfect average day would look like. So when you wake up, what does your day look like? If money and time and location were not an object, if you had all the time, all the money, and could live anywhere and be around whoever you want, what would that day look like, right? And obviously it's not going to look like, partying and just balling out every day. That's not sustainable, right? What does your average day look like in a perfect world? And then work towards creating that for yourself. I think more people spend more time worrying about the damn Kardashians and the latest bullshit on the news than they do worrying about their own life and their own end destination. And if that's been you, that's okay. Now's the time to make a change. Figure out where you are today in step 1 and make a decision to change. And then step 2, determine your end destination. Okay, and then step 3, this is where you take stock of where you are. You want to look at kind of the whole picture. What kind of debts do you have? Look at the gross number, break them down, really dive into it. Again, don't hide from it. How much are you earning? What do you have left over? What's your income statement look like? What's your balance sheet? What kind of assets do you have? And then once you have stock of where you truly are, then you can go into step 4, where you begin to eliminate debts. And in one of our prior episodes, I'll link this up in the show notes, we talked about the 3 steps to eliminating debt fast. And I've gotten some great feedback on that episode. People have talked about, eliminating interest rates, where some people were paying in the 20% range of interest rates, and they got that down to 0. Other people were saying, Chris, I started working on the snowball effect or one of these other strategies, and I'm going to be debt-free in just a few months, So do that. If you're in debt, go back, watch that episode or listen to that episode. It's episode 8, where we talk about 3 steps to eliminate debt fast. And then step 5 is setting a budget and tracking. Okay, so there's this quote that I'm going to read. It says, budgeting only has one rule: do not go over your budget, by Leslie Tane. And that's true. I mean, once you set a budget, stick to it. And sometimes, it's easier said than done, but you really want to to get control of your finances. You want to literally get control of your income and expenses and make sure that you know what's coming in and what's going out. So step 6 is to take inventory of your assets, both tangible assets and intangible assets. There are stories of people that have come to America, within the last 100 years or even more recently, that came here with nothing more than maybe a few bucks worth in their pocket, few dollars, and they couldn't speak English. They had no connections. And you hear stories of people like that have turned out to be great success, to build massive fortunes, big companies, be very influential. And so if you look at their assets, both tangible and intangible, they had very little. So if you take count of what you have, even if you don't have a lot of cash, I'm sure you have assets, like you can speak English. You have the ability to listen or watch this episode right now. You have some connections. You maybe family, friends, or coworkers, or past colleagues. Those are all assets. And you'll be amazed if once you take inventory of all those, including skills, you might be good at a sport, or you might be really friendly, or you might be very creative. Those are intangible assets that can create income and build wealth for you. And then tangible, maybe you have a savings account, maybe you own some gold, maybe you own a car. Just take inventory of all that, because it's easy to focus on the negative, right? It's easy to focus on the debts and what we have to pay off and what we don't have. But I think it's just as powerful to look at what you have in the bank, and also intangible assets that you can use to help move you closer to that goal. Okay, and then number 7 is to choose one income and wealth building strategy to start. Okay, so a lot of people will begin by looking at too many things at once. They'll want to get into real estate and then trading and then build a business and then start a blog and then do affiliate marketing and then do angel investing. You have to start with one. It's okay to learn about a lot of stuff at the same time, but when it comes to execute on one idea first. Execute on one income strategy first. And in episode 2, we talked about the 2 best ways to create income, which were to develop a skill like marketing or trading, or solve a problem and create a business solution around that problem. Those are the only 2 ways to create income. So choose one of those and start to execute on that. Okay, so that's step number 7. Choose an income and a wealth building strategy and stay focused on that until you get that to a point where it's producing and you can branch out and create other sources of income. So step 8 is actually really helpful in the execution process. This is where you set SMART goals. So what is a SMART goal? A SMART goal is specific, meaning you have a very, very specific goal. It's not just real broad, like I want to get rich. It's I want to make X dollars by X date, right? Measurable is you want to make sure you can measure the progress, set milestones, and ultimately know where the beginning and where the end point is. Achievable. Make sure that it's achievable. Don't set a goal of making $1 billion if you don't have 100 in the bank, but set something that is a challenge, but you believe inside you is attainable. I remember whenever I set my first $1 million goal. At the time, I felt like I was kind of fooling myself, but I knew I had it in me. And it felt a little out of reach, but it also felt achievable. And so I was able to work really hard towards that goal and ultimately achieve that a lot faster than I had expected. Realistic. Okay, realistic is, kind of along the lines of achievable, but it looks at your current circumstances and limitations. So if you say, well, I want to start an airline, but you have no experience in the airline industry and you have no planes and you don't have any capital for that, go with something that's realistic. Go with a goal that has the highest probability of success. And then T is timeline. You want to set a timeline for your goal, a deadline or a timeline or milestones that can help push you along. And as long as you're focused on your end desire or your end vision, and then you have those SMART, measurable, specific, attainable, realistic, and time-driven goals, that's going to help keep you on point. So step number 9 is seeking out mentors. Life is so much easier whenever you have other people around you that have achieved what you want to achieve. I'm consistently seeking out people that are smarter than me. So a lot of the angel investing networks and a lot of the startup communities that I'm a part of, a lot of times I'm in maybe the bottom 20% out of intelligence in the room. I love to surround myself with people that are way smarter than me. And some people I consider mentors and friends, and some people end up mentoring me just through having a conversation or speaking from stage or me reading their book. Look for people that can teach you how to get to where you want to go. With the amount of knowledge that's online and the amount of books that are written and the amount of communication that we have through Twitter and YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and all these platforms, there's no reason not to know something that you're interested in. If you want to go learn a language, you can do it. There's no big language barrier. You're not living in a country where you can't get to somebody who speaks that language or get to material to learn how to speak that language. The same is true for business. If you want to learn how to start a specific business, seek that out. Be resourceful. Seek mentors, people that can help you get to the next level. Number 10 is to have an emergency fund. So there's a couple of different types of bank accounts or emergency funds that I think people should have. The first is what I call a 911 emergency fund. And what this is I think everybody should have a minimum of $2,000 to $5,000 that you can access immediately, either, like a checking account, through a debit card, an ATM machine, or to write checks. And the reason for this is, if you are ever in a situation where you have like a real bad emergency, where you have a blowout on your tire on your car, or your car breaks down, or you have a medical emergency, or something happens where you can't make your rent or your mortgage payment, those are debilitating things. Those are things that stop everything else in its track. And if you don't have the resources to handle a problem like that, you're not going to be able to stay focused on your SMART goals, right? And recently, last week, I read a very depressing statistic that really makes me sad and reinforces my mission, why I'm doing this show in the first place. That statement is 61% of Americans don't have $1,000 in their savings account. Think of that. That's nearly 2 out of 3 people in America don't have $1,000 in their bank account. That just drives me insane. And that's why I want this show to grow and to reach as many people as possible, because if you don't have even $1,000 to your name, your quality of life is just not going to be that great. And I know money isn't the end all be all, but it is a tool, and it is a very, very helpful tool that helps you get a lot of the things that you want in life. And so that's step number 1. You need a 911 emergency plan. You need a fund that you can access that has at least a couple grand. And then from there, you want to have the second type of account, which is your safety buffer fund. And what this is where you have 6 to 12 months worth of living expenses in a bank account. That way, if you get laid off or if you have a major expense, you're going to be able to kind of ride that out and go smoothly through that. So my kind of plan, and again, I'm not a financial advisor, so I can't tell you what's right for you, but I think it's smart to go back to one of the earlier steps and pay off expensive debts, right? Eliminate debt, eliminate high interest debt fast. And in one of the prior episodes, we talked about how to lower your interest rates and tools and tactics that you can use to help make that an easier process. Once you get debt under control and stop the bleeding, then go in and build these 2 emergency funds. Maybe they're in the same account, but have at least a couple grand for a 911 emergency, and a second account for your safety buffer zone. So if you get laid off or have a big expense, you can pay that and keep moving. And step number 11 is to regularly review your progress. What I like to do is every 2 weeks and then every 30 days, do a pretty deep dive into where I am with my goals, what surprise things kind of happened, and then how to account for those, and just make sure you're on point. And every day I like to review my big rocks, right? My big action plans, the big projects I'm working on, and then list specific actions, as many as I can get done in a day. Some people say, well, try to do 3 big things every day or 1 big thing every day. My philosophy is do as many big things every day as you possibly can to get you closer to your goal. If you have 12 hours of free time in a day and you have the energy to do 20 things, why stop at 1, right? Work your ass off. That's kind of my philosophy. Always be hustling. Do something every single day that gets you closer to your goal, because again, time is finite. Don't waste it. And then the final and 12th step in this process to finally taking control of your financial future is to be grateful and share. And I mean this in more than just a fluffy, like, be happy and let's all hold hands. I mean this in a very literal sense of every day, do the verb, do the action of being grateful. It will change your life. I promise you. Wake up every day and think of 3 to 5 things right away that you're grateful for. When you wake up, instead of going, oh man, this bill, or have to go to work, or this or that, all the negative things, take 3 minutes at the most to go, what am I grateful for? If you make that a habit, I swear it will change the trajectory of your life over the course of weeks, months, and years. And then when it comes to sharing, if you're depressed, if you are so just wallowing in your self-pity, or if you're feeling, the pressure and the weight of the world, the way to get rid of that is to actually give. Whenever you feel like you're grasping and you need, and you want, the way to kind of put that desire and that mentality at bay is to give. Go out and donate your time. If you don't have capital, donate an hour or two to mentor somebody, to help somebody, to go to a soup kitchen. It doesn't matter. To break the cycle of thinking about what you want and need and focus on other people's wants and needs, just like being grateful every day, that will change your life. So just a quick recap. Step 1, be aware. Make a decision that you're going to take control of your financial future. And once you do that, set an end goal. What does the end destination look like? That's going to give you that tangible kind of start and end. Take stock of everything that you have, your assets, your debts. Work towards paying down that debt. Set a budget. Take inventory of your intangible assets as well, your skill sets, your connections, any kind of asset that you can use to help you in step 7, which is your income and wealth building strategy. Pick one, set smart goals, seek mentors to help you, and then start building your emergency funds. Once you get out from under that debt, review regularly, and then be grateful and give back. So guys, I hope you are enjoying these episodes. I am really, really appreciating the feedback that you guys are giving us. We have some incredible interviews that we put out and that we have scheduled to release over the next few weeks. I hope you have a great new year. Let's crush 2016. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to hit me up on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat. I'm at Chris Dunn TV everywhere. And please share the Pathways to Wealth show with everybody that you know or anybody that you think would benefit from this. And we will see you in the next episode. Take care.